Hi, Vanessa. Absolutely excited to run the community course with you. I believe you bring so much expertise and so many tips in our community. But the first things first, I want to ask you, do you really believe associations need online community, or can they just continue sending these emails to everyone in their list?
It's an excellent question. Look, I'll be honest, not everybody needs an online community. It takes a bit of work to set up, a little bit of work to run, but the returns and the yields of it can be really transformative for an organization, including associations. So the answer is not always, but often, yes. Like, how often do we want to get emails these days? I think we're looking for a break. So creating an online space is a way that you can kind of communicate asynchronously in ways that make it easier for your members to engage in their own way, in their own time, providing you have a good reason and kind of set it up in the right kind of way.
Excellent. What's the biggest misconception associations have about starting an online community, do you believe?
Another good question. I think it probably comes down to a couple of extremes. What I find is folks either think it's really easy, like they can just kind of spin up a community overnight. It's easy. We all sort of engage in things that feel a bit like communities on social media. So how hard can it be? And of course, that everybody's going to come and enjoy and engage, and it's just going to be totally easy from start to finish and costs very little. That is, of course, not true. It takes some work. It takes practices. It takes best practices. And it does take some real thinking and strategic thought around what you're doing and why. But the other extreme is that they think it's too hard, that they think that it's so much effort. It's so complicated. No one's going to want to join in. We're all too busy. We're all too stressed and tired. So you know what? We're not going to do it. We're not going to bother. And that's a shame as well, because they don't get to really enjoy the benefits of online communities, because it's not too hard and it's not dead easy. It's somewhere in between. You just have to kind of, get a bit of good advice and know what you're doing.
You just need a good tools and guidance, which we are going to do in our course. But do you think this course will help associations avoid the dreaded crickets chirping in their online communities?
Ah, yes, the dreaded crickets chirping. Yeah, look, I do. I think it's such a common mistake. And you know what? It just about always kind of boils down to the initial strategy and the starting place often. And there are other things, of course, that can influence that. So absolutely, we're going to talk through how to get it right from the start, how to really go into this in an intentional, thoughtful way about what you're trying to build, who it's for, and how to intrinsically motivate those people. And we're going to look at different techniques and tactics to make sure that, crickets are minimized.
Look, I know that you manage, dozens of online communities in Australia, and I'm not sure whether you managed to herd the cats, but what do you think it's harder, to manage online community or to herd the cats?
I love it. And look, as a cat lady, I can speak to both with some expertise. If you'd asked me 10, 15 years ago, I probably would have said that herding cats is easier than running an online community. It can feel like that sometimes. But honestly, I'd say herding cats is harder. Ultimately, we're dealing with people. So if we're approaching this in a way that is really considering who those people are, how we're there to serve them, what kind of shared value we're looking to generate, we can understand those relationships and what we're trying to achieve in a way that, we probably can't with cats, God bless them. So it can feel a bit stressful at times. But again, if you have the right tools, if you have the right guidance, and if you have the right kind of intention, all of those challenges are actually pretty easy to avoid and easy to mitigate.
What's one trend you wish completely disappear from community management? Be honest.
Be honest. All right. Look, I think that over the years, sort of online communities have been conflated and confused and kind of caught up with social media. They are adjacent. They're sort of very similar, but they are kind of different things. Communities predate social media, but a lot of people these days, because that's what we've grown up with and are acclimated to, we sort of think, community, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. They're different things, obviously. If you're sort of talking to an audience at scale on social media, that's a whole different set of skills, different set of goals and practices. And it's easy to confuse the two. And they really don't match. The sort of things you need to know and understand when you're working in a community are quite different to social media sometimes. What you're measuring is very different. Success looks different in each. So I think that sort of innate confusion about, it's just like social media. So I wish that we would be a bit clearer about that. And hopefully the folks that participate in this course are going to be able to walk away with that distinction and understanding.
Vanessa, tricky question. Do you think it's okay to bribe your members to join and engage in your community with some coffee or Amazon vouchers? Or do coffee vouchers really work? Just asking for a friend?
Oh, look, well, coffee vouchers would always work on me because I do like my coffee. Look, I think it's a tricky question. Ultimately, you can use extrinsic motivation techniques like here's a helpful voucher of something fun or something relevant to your work. Of course, you could do those sort of things. And yeah, they often work, right? They do. But the thing is, do they work for long? And can you sustain, indefinitely giving people coffee vouchers or some other kind of tangible extrinsic incentive to kind of take part? So ultimately, you can't avoid answering the question, why would people really want to come here? Why would people really want to participate? What do they really need out of this? So I think that they're totally fine as short-term tactics when deployed in a sort of fair and fun way, especially if they're in line with what your association or your organization is all about. That's great. If they really speak to a need, fantastic. But ultimately, it will only give you that short-term spike, if anything. So at some point, you need to answer the tougher questions about intrinsic motivation. What are people really going to get out of this, and why might they be compelled to take part?
Very fair point. And Vanessa, do you believe that AI is going to take over community management, or do we still need human charm for member engagement? What's your thoughts on that? Hard one.
This is actually something I'm researching a lot at the moment. So I'm nearly finished a doctorate in this exact question. Well, what is the role of AI in the online communities and community management space? Look, I believe that, and sort of the research that I've undertaken over a few years now, it strongly suggests that, community is a fundamentally human thing. We know this, that's not rocket science. And as long as it's about the relational, it's about human ideas and characteristics and experiences like trust and belonging and things like this, there is no way that machines can replace that. There just isn't. However, certainly AI tool sets from algorithms to different types of automation and machine learning can obviously support online community managers in their work, as they can in many other industries and sectors. It really just boils down to, how we're applying those. And I think we need to be very careful about, what we're using, why we're using it, and how much we reduce that human element, which is in many cases why people are taking part. So, in certain situations, if it introduces some efficiencies, that's great. But is it actually taking away some of the more human experiences that are why people are a part of this organization to begin with, or what they're seeking from that communal experience? So like everything else, we just need to approach it strategically. Think about how it's serving us, how it might be disserving us. So I don't think it's going to subsume everything. It also, let's be honest, still gets a lot of things wrong. AI is far from infallible. So plenty of room for human oversight and plenty of room for uniquely human qualities and uniquely human touch and interaction.
Vanessa, I can only imagine how hard it is to fit your doctorate work in 1 minute of online interview, but you managed really, really well. All right, staying on the topic of technology. One of the most frequent questions that I ask in my practice is, what's the best software for community management? What's your take on this?
Well, like everything technology, I think it changes all the time. And that's not just my way of getting out of giving you a specific answer. I genuinely think it's changed tremendously, and it is evolving really fast, as technology tends to. I think it always comes down to, what are you trying to achieve? You certainly don't need, in many cases, to be going and buying the most expensive software out there and sort of, spending tons of money, all your resources potentially on a great tool that's really sexy and does all of the things. But then it's so much of a struggle resource-wise that you neglect other really important areas. And you know what? Ultimately, if you haven't figured out that strategy, if you haven't approached those other human practices correctly and asked those questions and done that work, the tool won't work anyway, no matter how expensive it is. It's just going to sit there and gather dust. So it comes down to strategic analysis of what you're trying to achieve, what your community's for. I've seen amazing communities built off the back of a spreadsheet or an email list, and I've seen amazing communities built off the back of some of the most incredibly robust, expensive technology. So the market's always changing. It's really important to sort of be in dialogue with that, or talk to people that are in dialogue with that can help you understand what's available and how that scope is changing. There's definitely at the moment a real renaissance of smaller communities. So not away from the big enterprise kind of platforms into what some call cozy web kind of experiences, where they're quite intimate. They might be just for 10, 20, 200, a few hundred people, and they can create and really configure their own experience, their own culture, and kind of set that up in a way that suits them best. I think everyone's a bit exhausted of and frustrated with the really big platforms and some of the real challenges around those, which only see, are only continuing. So I think there's a bit of a pushback against larger platforms at the moment. So that's sort of where the market's currently at. But ultimately,
Fantastic.
not fit all.
Vanessa, I'm not sure whether people still have this question, but why should a cessation executive stop scrolling LinkedIn right now and sign up for this course immediately?
I'd like to see them stop wasting their time, because their time is incredibly valuable. Their time, time that could be spent working on other aspects of the association. I'd like to see them stop banging their heads against a wall. And I say that as someone who's been there. We've all banged our heads against a wall when it comes to this stuff. So we are able to give them, in the experience we've designed, formulas, templates, shortcuts, resources that are just going to give them a bit of an accelerated start into this space. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think something that a lot of people that start down a community pathway think is, this is really hard. I know people have done it before, but my situation is entirely unique. So how am I I've got to figure it all out myself. The truth is, plenty of people have gone that road before. There's some amazing best practices out there that really are very adjustable to context. There's amazing tools and resources. So I would like to see them just being able to get to the good stuff sooner and sort of stop feeling frustrated waiting for the painful stuff and feel like they're going in circles. As you mentioned before, crickets, not getting anywhere. There are ways around this. There are ways that are tried and true that will sort of set them in the right pathway.
I'm absolutely looking forward to that. And if you haven't joined yet, please go to the Membership Marketing School and register now.